Everybody mute yourselves.
Maybe.
Yes. That time you can.
कॉलेज का वीडियो हटा के इस पे शिफ्ट कर दो। Let's rock and roll.
Yes, it started.
Start kar. The intense effort to develop artificial intelligence has increased our understanding of neural networks because, at its core, artificial intelligence is an attempt to improve artificially what the brain already does effortlessly. Good evening, everyone. I am Atul Noor and Sheikh Asghar Ali will be your host for today and welcome you all to Lord's eCell's webinar supported by Brainovation and National Youth Council of India. Today, with immense pleasure, I would like to welcome Ms. Samia Khalid, a very special guest from United States. She'll be sharing her expertise opinion on the AI-enabled future. Good evening, Ms. Samia Khalid.
Good evening, guys. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on wherever you are joining us from. So, it's totally a pleasure to be here. We're looking forward to getting started.
Let me introduce Lord's eCell. Lord's Entrepreneurship Cell is one of the most vibrant student community of Hyderabad, impacting hundreds of lives in the society through various teams trained in specialized knowledge and pioneering initiatives in association with government, corporate, and other institutions. Our mission is to inspire the student entrepreneurs to unleash the seed of passion and dream which is already within us because we believe that entrepreneurship is the key to unlock India's inventive potential. And as we all know that innovation and entrepreneurship knows no boundaries. Now, let me speak few lines about our today's speaker, Ms. Samia Khalid. Currently, she is working with large-scale distributed systems to create Microsoft's next wave of intelligent experience in Office 365 and Outlook. She is also experienced in AI-powered vehicle maintenance, where she holds a patent for her master thesis work. Well, if you guys have any question in between the presentation, do put it in the comment section. We will be addressing one by one towards the end. With that, now I would expect you people to give your full attention to Samia Khalid and make this webinar a source of motivation and turning point for ourselves. Now, help me in welcoming her on screen. Samia Khalid.
And thank you again, guys, and let's get started. I have so much material for you guys, so we'll have hopefully a really fun session while I get into the presentation mode. I would love to hear where you are joining us from, so please comment wherever it's. If you're on YouTube, let me know in the comments where are you joining us from. Would love to hear that and what you do. Are you a market? Sorry, it's taking a minute. So, by the way, can someone read the comments for me since I can't see them? Yeah, one of you guys would. I would love to hear that. So let me know when you guys can see my screen as well. Can you guys see my screen? Sorry, I can't see any comments, so please someone has to tell me.
Yes, yes, yes. We are able to see that.
Awesome. All right, guys, so let's get started. Today we are going to talk about quite a few things. We'll talk about the AI-enabled future, all this hype about AI and how it's going to
Patent chudu.
disrupt the world. So what is it really about? So let's get started. We have a power-packed agenda, so we will start by talking about ways AI will impact our future lives, and then we will also move into AI's role in robotics, because
Microsoft employee
you guys from Lord Cecil are mostly
from
in the
USA.
robotics class, so that's
From
something
USA.
special for you guys. And after that, we are also going to look at what are really the skills that are going to matter in the future. What are the things you should be focusing on? All the tech, all like the most critical things for students, especially as you're developing your skill sets. And then I have a surprise for you as well. I'm not gonna tell that right now. And then of course we will end with the Q&A. And as Amathan said earlier, if you have any comments, please leave them in the comments, any questions, and we will address them at the end. So without any further ado, again, thank you again for being here today, and let's get started. So, all right, let's see how is AI impacting. As the quote goes by a famous AI oracle and venture capitalist, AI is going to change the world more than anything in the history of mankind, and more than electricity. Why is that? Because it's not just that it's, first of all, it's going to impact all kind of industries that you could think of, whether it's manufacturing, retail, finance, HR, whatever, healthcare, whatever you might come up with, that is going to be impacted by AI. All the tech products are eventually going to be infused with that. But even besides that, the more subtle the impact that it's going to have on us as individuals, on human life, that's why it's going to be a really big game changer. And the world in 2050 is like going to be like vastly different than what we have today. But today we are going to focus and look at the ways it's going to impact us at individual levels. So let's look at that. There are a couple of ways that will impact the way we work, the way we live, the way we experience the world, and our interactions with each other and our relationship with data. Those are the major buckets. And now we're going to do a deeper dive into each of these areas and see how is it really going to change or impact our lives there. So let's look at work first. AI enhanced work. What does that mean? This means that all the drudgery and the repetitive work is going to be removed. For example, if you think about it today, if you think about, for example, legal paperwork, or even HR office or finance or accounting, there's a lot of work that's just repetitive and manual, and there isn't really any special thing going on. It's things that can be automated very easily. So all of those are going to be. We'll look into more examples as well. But for example, just think of something that an accountant does, right? It's something that a machine can very well do as well. Other than that, companies are going to be more responsive to their customers' needs. What does this mean? For example, if you think about it, Netflix has started producing series and content based on the user data that they get, based on what users actually like to see. So they are producing more of that content. Similarly, in all the other industries, being able to understand users and then providing them what they really need is a big game changer as well. And then on a similar line, always on workforce means that, because think about it, if there is a machine doesn't get tired. You would have, and there are those information desks, right? Today at airport or in shopping malls or in other places, right? Or even at restaurants. And they need to replace a person every 8 hours and they get tired. Well, while the conversational agents and automatic bots, they can be there all the time. And also even the online, right? If you think about online customer service, that's always on. They don't need people to be there, right? So that's going to be a big difference. Your bots will keep getting more and more intelligent, and they can answer your queries without having to have so many humans at the back servicing the customers. For example, this is an example of customer service of a PC that's there in the shopping center helping you answer your questions. And then the second thing is going to be autonomous everything. So when we think of autonomous, the first thing that comes to our minds is the cars and the transportation industry. That will definitely get automated, and we are already seeing a lot of work being done in that area. But also, so if we think about why is that important, because, for example, the US National Highway Traffic Safety data from 2012 showed that 31% of the fatal crashes, they were due to alcohol abuse, and 30% speeding and 20% distracted drivers, which means that all of these errors, they can be eliminated by a machine, right? Because self-driving vehicles have none of these flaws. This means that all the drivers, the truck drivers, and all of that industry, that's going to be disrupted. It's one of the first ones that's going to be disrupted, those professions. And it's not just vehicles when we talk about autonomous things, because that's the first thing that comes to our mind, but it's also autonomous systems and operations, right? Because think about it, there's Amazon Go stores. Not sure how many of you are aware of it, but Amazon has started having these retail stores where there is no salesperson. You just go in, you grab your product, you get out, and it's automatically deducts it from your card, and it's all automated. No hassle at all. Isn't that really cool? And also, in a similar line, we saw vehicles, retail, to even warehouses, right? For example, Amazon has huge warehouses where there are right now people doing the manual work, but all of those would be replaced by robots that can pick, package, and do all of the functions that today are being done by humans. Another example, for example, US Air Force by 2023 is having F-16's replacement Skyborg that is going to be without any pilots at all. So operational combat, no errors, and so you totally remove the pilot out of the picture, out of the plane. So at least you're saving human lives, and it brings an interesting scenario here, especially when it comes to these kind of applications. And not just that, so we have seen so many diverse applications. Another is greenfield, a robot that can kill weed. So even agriculture, right, where you have those farmers doing all the work and picking out feed and doing all that work, that is going to be automated. And actually this one in greenfield, more like this would help even with the usage, not having to use pesticides and so on. So as we've seen, it's all kind of industries, whether it's vehicles, retail, it's military or agriculture, the impact is going to be so invasive. And the thing is, this might sound scary, like, oh my God, all the jobs are going to be taken by AI, right? That's the fear as well. But the thing is that it's likely going to be a cooperation with AI rather than a competition. So the idea is we have to change the way we will be thinking about work. So we will be leveraging AI. For example, if we take the example of the planes, right, the pilots, yes, it's true. The pilot is going to lose their job, and similarly, the truck driver is going to lose his job. But new opportunities will come, like maintenance of those machines, the remote control, the data analysis, the cyber security. But the caveat here is that, as we see, these are high-skilled jobs, so more technical skills. So all the other ones are going to be taken away, but it's going to be, the focus is going to be on the high-skilled workers. So that's going to be the job market of 2020. And actually, it's not something to be as much as we're scared of. Like humans throughout our evolution, we have had gone through these changes. This time it's really a big one, but if you think about it, when we went from agriculture to the industrial revolution, right? People were thinking, hey, all these farms, yes, they were that job loss, but then there were new jobs created in the industry, right? People were doing work in those industries. Here, the difference is that the new types of jobs will be high-skilled workers. And the third way is human experience. That is going to change a lot because, for example, creativity will be expanded. If you see this image, will you believe it or not? This is not made by a human. This is an image that was generated by AI, and similarly, AI is being used to create music, art, and whatever you could think of. It's really helping in all the creative pursuits as well. It's still in a very much immature phase, so it's a lot of work going on, but eventually we'll see helping with writing. Already, like, you have those spell checkers, grammar checkers, and whatnot, that automatic summary generations and automatic writing of essays or news articles, and then helping also with creating movies and music and all of that. It will really help to expand human creativity. And also way we communicate, right? For example, today you would be able to interact with anybody without any language barrier, right? Today already the Google Translator and all the translating apps, for example, even in PowerPoint, you have the automated translations. If you turn on the captions, you can get real-time updates. But it's going to be more and more that, for example, no matter if you understand English or not, you would be able to understand this presentation very well. So there is going to be a lot of work in that area. So language won't be a barrier anymore. So that's wonderful. Another important one, decision making. This is an interesting one because today we trust Netflix when it recommends movies. Like, okay, we know if it's suggesting it's something we'd like. Similarly, Google Maps, right? We trust it. If it says turn right, we turn right. If it says turn left, we turn left, right? And this picture, let me tell you, this is real. It was some Japanese tourists, who were visiting Australia, and their GPS tracker gave them some indication, and they just kept going based on what the GPS was saying. And their car literally went into the Pacific Ocean. Like, can you believe it? That's how much we are putting our trust in these AI-driven applications. And like, really, when I look at the pictures, it does feel like, how is this possible? But we might joke about it, and this is too obvious, and you're like, hey, how can you drive the car? But this is just one of the instances. It has happened many more scenarios as well. But there are also more subtle ways. For example, this was an obvious one. It's slowly and steadily that's becoming part of our lives. Think that in future, if AI is helping you, today it's helping you with movies or what to watch next on YouTube, but if it's helping you with studying, it's helping you to decide where to work, what to do with your career, whom you should marry, like all these decisions, they are going to be more and more automated and help with AI, then our lives will be less of a drama of decision making. That's like today, right? You have, I have to think about this, I have to think about that, this decision, that decision. And our life is basically about decisions, right? So all of that is going to change radically. And already, if you think about it over the last 10 years, how much of it has changed, right? So what will happen in the next decades? That's just, no one can really, we can't really predict, but it's going to be tremendous changes. And another one, the fourth and the last one, is the pervasive knowledge. What does this mean? Is that, for example, when we talk about data, it's not going to be just data in individual applications or devices. And so there are going to be two things, like, because the connectivity and update and the possibility to update those automated machines. For example, let's think of it, let's say, for example, now there is COVID going on, or there is any other disease, right? Once a treatment comes along, all the doctors in the world need to know that, hey, this is the new treatment. They need to be informed, and depending on their ramp up time, on where they live, they will, if it's rural areas or in the first, in the really exposed to where the invention was made, they will get to know about it. But it takes time until everyone is aware of how to do the treatment, right? But imagine if it's AI powered, all the doctors or machines, and they're able to communicate with each other, so they're connected, and their software can be updated, right? So you okay, this is the treatment comes out, that's how you treat COVID, and then you update all of the doctors around the world instantaneously, and they know how to fix the issue. And similarly, we're talking about self-driving cars, right? Today, the cars are not talking to each other, but imagine all those vehicles are able to communicate with each other, right? Then, like, how unlikely accidents would be, or like they can avoid traffic jams because they're communicating with each other, hey, that's a really high traffic road, so don't go there. So that is going to be that integrated network. That is really going to be the one that is going to replace individual humans, because it's the power of that network that's not going to be matched by humans individually. That's going to be the major game changer here. So we have looked at the 4 ways, but I would also recommend you on this to read, if you haven't already read this book, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. It's by a historian, Yuval Noah Harari, who's also the writer of *Sapiens*. But he has a lot of interesting thoughts about where the future is going, how it will impact also in terms of democracy and politics and whatnot, and what are some of the things that we are going to be thinking about going in the future. So I find it a very thought-provoking read. So if you are interested in understanding more the dynamics of the future, this is one of a really good book. So I'd suggest you to read that. Now let's move on to the second part. So right now we have seen how AI will impact us at individual level, but now we are going to see how is AI impacting the robotics industry. So what are really these AI-enabled robots, and what makes them really unique, right? So the major difference that AI brings to robotics is because we are moving away from automation to autonomy, because AI brings that automated, where they are able to do more than what they are programmed with, hard-coded to do. They can also make more on-the-go decisions. And we see this when the robot has to handle several tasks, and it's able to respond real time to humans or changes in the environments, and not just do what it was coded. Because a traditional robot, if you have programmed it to move in a certain direction or move its arm in a certain way, it will keep doing the same, but it doesn't have the capacity to respond to any changes, right? So that's where AI comes into the picture. And let's look at how is really AI helping more specifically. First, is helping with sense and response. As you said, the traditional robots fix objects, for example, in a predetermined trajectory, while the AI-powered robot is able to teach itself to handle objects it hasn't seen before. We'll see an example of this soon as well. The second is mobility, right? Doing unexpected maneuvers and like on their path and understanding that when it should deviate rather than doing what it was hard-coded to do. For example, these thanks to this mobility, these AI-powered robots are being used they are having a commercial use. For example, carrying goods, like we saw the warehouses examples, or even there's a robot that just came up for the helping in the labs, a lab assistant that works all day 24/7, right? And then cleaning, inventory management, and also exploring environments that are too dangerous for humans, right? Where you shouldn't be sending humans because human life would be at stake. For example, even in the case of the military, right? Or in mining, all those places where it's too dangerous to have humans. They're having a robot really helps. But these are still not very mature, but it's a lot of work going on, so we'll see them becoming more and more common. And the third is, besides sensors and response and mobility, there's human AI interaction, right? This is also a major differentiator because if you add natural language understanding along with speech and computer vision, it means that the robot is able to interact with humans. You can have an integrated chat where it can interact. It has computer vision and it's able to understand what's the environment is looking like so that it can respond accordingly and have that really human interaction and conversations. Now let's look at what are the stages, right? So we see how AI is helping the robots, but now let's look at the various stages in how we move from automation to really having this autonomous robot. So the stage of robots is like, okay, there is no automation, people are operating the machines and no robots, right? That was the basics. Then you bring in slight automation, but where it's a pretty much of a dumb robot, right? It doesn't interact or use the information in the environment. And then comes in partial automation, where it's able to take some sensory input from the environment to make decisions and might have vision sensors, so it can handle different objects as well. It knows what to pick and what to leave and help in the warehouses. So this is kind of where the stage we are at the partial automation. And we're still working on, and now conditional autonomy comes in when the machine is able to monitor the environment, and it's able to make its own decision, but it still requires some human intervention to understand, okay, if there is something unpredictable happens, it does need a human in the loop to avoid things messing up. And then we'll see things moving from there to really high autonomy, and then complete autonomy is there. That's like the end, that, okay, it can do totally everything on its own, and it doesn't need any human. We are not there, but that's something, that's part of the stages in the evolution, and probably maybe by 2050 we'll have all these machines that are autonomous. We are still lingering in stage 2, 3 right now. And with that, I actually want to play a video for you to show you BrickBot. That's disrupting industrial manufacturing and construction. So this was a robot where they are teaching it to assemble Legos and make skyscrapers. So I'll let you watch it, and we'll see how this is still work in progress. But imagine if something like this comes in, a robot that is able to assemble whatever construction it has to do. So let's get started. Actually, I will not do it further. Guys, let me know if you can't hear the audio, so do chime in and stop me, okay?
BreakPod is a project that we began about 2 years ago to explore whether we could teach a robot how to build with Lego bricks. The idea was, if you imagine a robot able to learn to assemble anything in the world in the same way that a child assembles Lego, then we could literally redefine how robots work in any industrial setting. Today, if you visit a factory, there are teams of people that spend months and years programming industrial robots to do just one task. It's incredibly tedious, unbelievably complicated, and very error-prone.
So the approach that we're trying to take with BrickBot is to use machine learning to take sensor data and then infer what's going on in the environment to then have the robots act accordingly and adaptively. There's a lot of things that you do when you're working with robots. It's some programming, it's actually mechanical design as well, making things, fabricating pieces that the robots may need to be able to do their task. We're looking at ways to make robots easier to use so that we can put these sort of assembly lines together and make them accessible to more people, not just these big companies that have deep resources to do this kind of thing.
The products and the offerings we work with our customers on are things that help them design and create digital 3D models of the things they're going to create. We've now reached a point where certainly some of the stages of what we're doing in BrickBot are fairly robust. So we're now beginning to test them in industrial settings.
We want to move beyond just Lego bricks. So we want to start looking at more realistic scenarios. So there's all kinds of different brick types. There's like wheels and gears, windows, rooftops, and so on.
Designing buildings, designing products are very, very complicated things. You have to be a specialist to do those things. And as computers get more powerful, computers should be able to take on some of that specialization and make these things more accessible to more people.
Isn't that so cool? So yeah, that was BrickBot that is able to know which Lego pieces to pick up. And it's just a glimpse of what we should be expecting in the future. And now I want to talk about, it might be, okay, all this AI, but let's get back to the basic. What is really AI? And you might have heard also terms like machine learning, deep learning. So I want to talk a little about that because I've been throwing out AI since I started talking. So what is really AI and what are all these different terms? So AI really means, I think that it's when the machines start to exhibit this human intelligence, as we have seen already some examples, right? When the machine is able to understand what a person is doing, like your Alexa or Cortana or Siri are able to understand what you're doing as well. Machine learning is just one of the ways to achieve AI. And the difference is that in traditional programming, for example, when you started college, right, when you learn programming, write the sorting algorithm, you start by writing specific set of instructions. You know your bubble sort or this sort or that sort, and you know if you have to use that algorithm, you just write your code and you have it done right. The difference with machine learning programming is that you don't write any more hard-coded code, but it's the algorithms are general purpose. They are able to understand patterns from the data. So the same algorithm that should be able to identify, let's say, cats versus dogs can also be used to identify like apples versus oranges. The algorithm is the same, but why does the output change? Because the input data is different. So these algorithms are really these are general purpose algorithms that understand patterns in the data. So that's the major differentiator, that you don't do any more, don't provide hard-coded instructions. And then there is deep learning. Deep learning is a subset then of machine learning. It's one of the ways these general purpose algorithms can be developed. It's a technique for implementing machine learning. So as you see, you start with AI, then machine learning is just a subset, and then deep learning is a type of algorithm. And specifically, deep learning is the algorithms, the neural networks that are inspired by human brains, but it's just one type of algorithms, and it comes under machine learning. And then there is this data science, which can or cannot use machine learning depending on, it's more about business analysis, and it's has more business applications, so understanding the data and deriving insights from that to make business decisions. So it doesn't always rely on machine learning, but it might rely in some cases depending on how much data you have and how advanced your scenario is. So I really wanted to clarify this confusion, because really having the understanding what is really AI is really important, especially people are confused about these three terms. And specifically, for example, we saw BrickBot, right? How are they really working? So how is it able to understand? And before I said as well that the machine is able to, how is the robot able to learn from its mistakes? So the main algorithm that is behind all these robots that are learning from the environment, and also robots, for example, machines that learn to play and were able to beat humans at the game of Go or chess, they are powered by reinforcement learning algorithms. Where basically, let's say that you have an agent, that's your robot in this case, it observes the environment and it has a set policy. Let's say the set policy, it's a game and it has to make a move. The set policy in the beginning is, okay, just do, let's say, a random move, right? So it does the random move. It takes the action. It gets rewarded or it gets a penalty depending on if it was a good move or a bad move. If it's a reward, it says, hey, that was a good move, and it learns it, and it updates, and it keeps iterating, and it updates its policy. However, if it was a bad move, it lost points, then it updates it, okay, remember that this is a bad move. And then it keeps on doing that until it has reached a stage where it's really good. And that's how, for example, they're able to learn from the environment and do the right moves and be able to do course correction when they're moving. They hit a wall and they're like, hey, that's not the right way to go, or to pick objects, or even like playing chess. So that's how the machine was able to play it itself with itself again and again and again, millions of times, until it became like super at the game and was able to beat the human champion after hours of training, right? Versus a human that has spent their lifetime learning that game. So this is the major algorithm. But now you might be saying, oh, this sounds all so complicated. I don't know this AI reinforcement learning. How can I do it, right? So that's where, let me tell you that you don't need to be that scared about it, because it's a democratization of AI comes into play. Democratization means that all the big companies like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and so on, they're aware of the potential AI has on the world and all the different applications, and to really empower everyone to make use of these applications, they're investing a lot of efforts into exposing them as APIs, or providing ways for developers to get started without having to understand all the nitty-gritty details and having to do the maths themselves. Because the thing is that these companies have tons of like money that's computational power, because all these algorithms require a lot of computational power. So they have those resources in terms of GPUs, they have the money, they have they have the possibility to hire the best of talent. So they're working a lot and to help so that others can start using it. And actually, with that said, it's time for some getting hands-on resources, right? And actually some homework as well for you guys. So yes, some homework time. So we are going to look at how you can actually build an intelligent robot. So this is a lab. I'll paste, don't worry, in the chats, I'll paste in the comments as well on the YouTube live once the session ends. I'll post the links as well. But on GitHub, if you go under Microsoft AI Robot Challenge Lab, basically it's a lab that will tell you what lies the heart of robot programming, help you to use a robot simulator, and how you would use in a real industrial robot and make a really intelligent robot. And actually, so some of the steps covered, for example, it tells you about requirement setup and hands-on lab as well. So GitHub, Microsoft AI Robot Challenge Lab. But also, if you're really newbie, if you go to the aischool.microsoft.com, there is a deep dive that starts with Introduction to Robotics module. So for those of you who don't know about robotics, to making your robot intelligent using Microsoft AI. So you don't need to really understand all the details like to how you would write those reinforcement learning algorithms, but you can use that work to really create smart applications. So guys, do check this out. So aischool.microsoft.com and do this lab. And then you can read more about, in general, what's going on in the space, what's coming in the future, some white papers. So in general, if you go under AI and autonomous systems, it's a bunch of resources as well. And I'm going to do this lab myself as well. And to be honest, as I don't work in robotics myself, so haven't been like working closely on this stuff. But this is so exciting. So I plan to do this. And I really, really encourage you, all of you attending, to do this. It will be fun. And yeah, so that's your homework, guys. Please do it. It will be fun. And you can start with the AI school if you need introduction to robotics, or just go on GitHub. And if you do the project, once you're done, post it on LinkedIn as well. And feel free to, just let me know once you're done. Tag me there. And I would be happy to learn what you ended up creating as well. So that's the homework part. And now let's move on in the third part about the most important things. We have talked about how AI is going to impact us so radically in the future. In basic, our lives are going to change. And all these things we are learning that they're going to be automated. And let me tell you, even programming today, that's going to be, you think that that's the only skill that's needed? No, because, for example, the web application, creating a website, there are already some automated, that's able to generate the code as well. So a lot of that will be automated as well. So things that, for example, data scientists are doing, or things like that. So it's going to be a lot more than that. So what are really the skills that you should focus on and make sure you have those? And that will help you to really win at this game and not be lost in this AI world. So let's look at those skills. So especially for those of you who are students, really work on developing those skills. But before I tell you anything, I would like to hear from you guys. What do you think are the skills for the future? So let me know in the comments. And yeah, so let me know. And guys, please, the ones monitoring, please read out the answers. And you guys also, you tell me what you think. I would love to hear before we dive deeper. Any answers? So what are going to be the skills that will really matter in the future? Any comments? Does anyone wants to?
There's a comment. A person is saying machine learning and artificial intelligence.
Okay. And what else? What again?
Expert in deep learning. Another comment traits.
Okay. Anything else?
There's a comment coming as data science and quantum computing.
All right. Those are definitely skills that will be really important in terms of the professional life. But let's look at that. What are going to be really the core skills? Okay, now let's get going. First, continuous learning. Why? Because, guys, just think about it. Whether it's an AI algorithm, deep learning, and all of this technology is evolving so rapidly that whatever you know today will be outdated, if not in a year, in a couple of years. Even deep learning is evolving so rapidly. So, and as I said, AI is going to be becoming more and more better and better in future. So it will be taking more of our jobs, say even programming, right? Tradition. So that's going to be done by AI. But in general, just to really survive in that skill, the fundamental skill is that you are able to innovate yourself as well and evolve and learn new skills. So and adapt with technology. So that continuous learning, because you might gain some deep learning expertise, become, hey, I am a deep learning expert today. But in a couple of years, sorry, all of those, whatever you learn, those algorithms, unless you keep learning, they'll be outdated. And there will be new ones, and your skill set would have expired. So all the expiry date is going to be very short. So that's where you have to continuously learn. So probably by 2050, it won't be anymore about having just one profession, and we'll need to innovate ourselves. You do one thing for life, and that's all you do. And not just because, if you think about it, before people used to live until 60, and now if you're going to live until 120 or so. And the technology is evolving so rapidly as well. So that continuous learning is really, really important. So that's a must-have skill, to continuously innovate, not yourself as well as individual in terms of profession. So maybe there won't be any one profession for life anymore. And within that profession, the technical skills, you need to keep working on them. So it's not one just thing that you learn and that's it. So this is going to be fundamental if you want to stay relevant in the coming decades. Second, critical thinking. Because think about it, these are the skills that are going to matter are the skills where AI has a gap compared to humans. So we as humans, as I said before, we need to collaborate and fill in the gap and really collaborate with AI. So that's where we need to bring in skills to address that gap. And critical thinking is so essential because we are in an era where the information is everywhere. We have information overload from here and there and everywhere. While before, there used to be information was not readily available. So for example, we were being tested on, hey, in the exam, you had to go and do rote learning and tell, did you learn that definition or did you learn this or that? That's going to be irrelevant. So if there are any teachers listening right now, please stop testing your students on information retrieval skills, because that is not going to be of any help. Information is so readily available. So it's not whether you can retrieve a definition from Wikipedia or anywhere else and formulate an answer. But is it that you have all the information out there? Can you think critically about it and, for example, make sense that what is true and what is false, what is fake versus what is not fake? Are you able to think about it, and rather than just taking it by what's being given to you, all the information that you are being fed? Can you reason it? Ask yourself the whys. So that's a skill that you guys should really focus on developing. So along with problem solving, critical thinking is really going to be important. And another is creativity. Because as I said, we are trying to fill in the gaps where AI is not really the best. In case, for example, if we talk about, like, you can't compete with an AI and solving, like say a math problem, doing some calculations, or let's say learning languages or doing translations on the fly, right? But creativity is going to be something that's going to be important, because it helps you even to, it's when we think about creativity, it's not just art, but it's also art and technology. When you create products, when you innovate, are you bringing creativity into your products into the picture as well? So it's not just reserved for the traditional artworks or for movies and that kind of professions. You need to be creative also in your tech products as well. And another one, this is really important, emotional intelligence is going to be really important. As AI is going to be taking more and more jobs, but this means that being able to understand humans, that those leadership skills, being able to interact with people, those are going to be the skills that will really matter and matter a lot. So really, guys, work on developing these skills, because these are not, I'm not trying to tell you things that you would be taught, the things that you're taught in uni, learn this, learn that, but these are really skills. I'm not denying that learning all of that is important as well, but these skills will really help you to play the long game and really help you in the long run. So emotional intelligence is when you're able to understand yourself as well, have that self-awareness, but also understanding people. So you can collaborate with people. And that's where, for example, for leaders, it's really important. And that human interaction, like dealing with people, for example, if doctors might be replaced by AI, you have the AI surgeons, but the nurses that have the emotional intelligence to really connect with human, that is going to be difficult to replace, right? So that their jobs are less at risk. So it's really the skills where we fill in the gaps and see where we are bringing value. So please work on that. Emotional intelligence is as, if not more important than the IQ. So this is the EQ versus the IQ. So both are important. So focus on your EQ as well. And with that, the last comes in mental stamina. Why is this important? As I said, the world is going to be evolving so rapidly. As we saw earlier, you need to continuously develop yourself, evolve, keep on learning new skill sets, and more jobs get taken away and things change, right? When there are drastic changes, it's really important to have that mental stability. For example, we saw it even during these COVID times, right? When something huge happens, then people have all sort of kind of anxiety, depression, and even there are rising suicides, right? So all of those things. So being able to have the mental strength is really going to be important. Let's say if you're losing a job, rather than sitting, okay, what to do, but being able to reinvent yourself by learning the new set of skills is really going to be important. And that evolution where the AI and the human boundaries are going to be more and more blurry. And let's say your job is, you're sitting at home, you just have to work for 3-4 hours because it's a different world, versus and you have the rest of the hours to do whatever. Then people, when they don't have anything to do, they are likely to go in a state where they get depressed and whatnot, right? So having mental stability is going to be really important. This is where things like mindfulness, meditation, and all of that comes into play. And rightfully so, you are seeing an increase in the trend towards these things. And it's not a fluff. If you see all the tech industry, for example, all the CEOs and whatnot, they are all into mindfulness and all these practices. So that was about the most important skills. So yes, do learn your deep learning and AI, but in the long run, if you look at the decades ahead, the bigger picture of things, continuous learning, critical thinking with problem solving, creativity, emotional intelligence, and the mental health. This is going to be really important. So do focus on acquiring these skills as well. Because if you are a continuous learner, whatever comes your way, you will be able to, live up to those challenges. So continuous learning with mental strength means that nothing will stop you, right? And the last, I want to talk about something that is really important for you guys, especially at Lord Cecil, the organizers of this webinar, innovation. So what do you guys think lies at the heart of innovation? What is one thing that really drives innovation? Any answers? Any answers?
Oh, there are no comments, ma'am.
Anyone? Guys, don't shy away. Just say whatever comes to your mind. The first thing that comes to your mind when you say you have to innovate.
There's a comment coming as critical thinking, problem-solving attitude,
Yes.
creativity and needs, necessity, enthusiasm,
Awesome.
unsolved problems and demands.
Awesome. Yes, those are definitely great drivers. But let me tell you one more fundamental driver to innovation. Yes, failure. Because failure helps us to recognize where we need to evolve. It's because once we fail, we learn, and we learn from the lessons. So we do celebrate once we have succeeded at something, but taking learning as an opportunity to evolve is fundamental. So guys, whenever you are trying to innovate, fail early, fail often, and fail forward. Try to extract all the lessons out of that failure, because that will really help you to step up. So it's not just fail, but really extract the juices out of that failure and use it as a stepping stone to evolve. Because unless you fail, you will not innovate. And when innovation comes into play, you don't succeed at your first attempt. So if you are failing, don't worry. Keep failing, fail fast, often, and forward. That will really bootstrap your innovation, because it's really part of the journey to innovation. And as they say, journey, and the journey is going to be filled with failures. And as the legend Michael Jordan said, I have failed over and over and over again in my life. And just thanks a lot for your time. Now we are almost at the end of the time. So please do connect with me. I would love to talk with all of you guys. But before we end, actually, I wanted to show, since we have a few minutes, play one more video. We are talking about innovation and how all of you have the responsibility to change lives. And it has to be in small ways that can have big changes on people's lives.
I tend to kind of just avoid doing anything you could do that would just make my hand do what.
Even just begin to help gain her writing ability, her drawing ability. Challenge is it's immense. Shaking, and therefore it is steady. I'm making a very rough prototype, and what this board does is I can connect into it through these wires, these tiny coin cell motors. So these motors will vibrate. Hello. Hi, I'm Alison.
It's affecting something. I don't quite know what's happening. Something is going on with it.
What this is doing is it's short-circuiting whatever feedback loop there is between the brain and the hand that's causing the tremors. I want some. Oh, oh. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. It makes me forget that I have a tremor. I haven't drawn one of them for a long time. I'm so casual about it. Yeah, I was going to draw a straight line. I've actually just written my name for like the first time in ages. Can't believe it. Mum, it's called the Emma. Oh, brilliant! It's got my name on it.
The point was that you have such a huge opportunity to make an impact, and it's things we don't think about usually. So things like, look, or wait a second. Last thing, I had told you guys in the beginning that I have a surprise for you guys. So before we go, and get to the Q&A, I just want to say that I would have loved to interact with all of you and to really, that's the great thing about online events is that you can have people all around the world. But so let me know in the end, why would you like to have one with you? So yes, I hope you are excited about that, and I would love to chat with you guys. So with that said, thank you, and we can get back to the Q&A. So over to you guys. Yes, so as we saw the different stages, right, where we are evolving, so it's not really stages, right? As we are seeing the AI, the time as we are evolving, it's acquiring the cognitive abilities, right? So those are the things, the cognitive abilities and the self-learning and all of those things that are in, or those things, right? And it's the self-learning in the loop as well. So those are the things, but whoever has the question, I can definitely send you more resources so that you can learn about it in detail. But I don't want to go into details because I'm assuming not all of the audience here would do a deep dive and understand all of that. So yeah, and take more generic questions.
The career options in both ML and DS.
So I think I have already, as we saw earlier, it's more about it's advanced analytics. So we used to have analysts. It's using data to derive business insights, while machine learning is algorithms that also answers your question. And regarding careers, I would say that if you could please go on my blog, so all of them. For example, it's not one tech with AI that's going to be the future for you.
Ma'am, the next question is, with increase in population, there is a need for more jobs. Aren't we decreasing jobs due to AI? Could we come up with anything that removes human flaws but doesn't decrease jobs?
So as we addressed in, for example, majority, so more high-tech jobs that will be created. So it's removing certain set of jobs, but creating another high-tech skilled workers. So that's a difference.
What is the?
So it's PyTorch, Python, and TensorFlow. So, but if you work on like Python, start with Python and then learn some PyTorch.
Even if
more, they want to kill, they'll just kill. They don't have emotions or morals that a human might have last minute and not take the action. In cars, the famous question that occurs going to have devastating impact, but also as data, if you have these integrated network and if they get hacked to do something that has a detrimental impact, that's going to be devastating. And then the way might be the data, for example, and use user data to change really impact the results of election. In a similar way, we for purposes that are, let's say, for their own benefits, it's going to be, let's say, impacts on the society as a whole that might be evil or creepy in terms of, let's say, governments in certain countries that are really keeping tabs on what people are doing, why they're doing, how they're doing, and they might be able to have even more strict control and really hack their decision making of people.
Ma'am, next question is, why is game theory important to AI?
So game theory, for example, if we learn that it actually depends on the application that you're working on. So it's not like if you want to do any AI, you need to learn game theory. But in a certain type of application, for example, let's say we're developing, if you are developing these reinforcement learning power gaming agents that are able to learn, or even developing some application that needs the game theory skill set to understand how this game theory really helps you in understand the motives and how to create the product in the best possible way. So it really depends on the application. So you don't need game theory for doing everything. For example, I work with natural language understanding, and there you don't need game theory. Or if you're working with computer vision, for example. So it's not like a requirement to work in AI. But really, if you are in that domain, then yes.
Ma'am, we just have 2 more questions and then we'll be ending the Q&A session. AI is already in our lives at some level or other. How will the future AI learn from the failures of current AI?
Has already?
It is already in the same level, but how will the future AI learn from the failures of current AI?
How it will learn from the failure of, so as I said, they keep evolving, right? As we learn, for example, these from data, as more and more data keeps coming in, they learn from the mistakes they keep making. They keep evolving, right? These robots, for example, examples we see, they're at a very immature stage, right? So they're being developed. First, the AI, the reinforcement learning kind of algorithms, they are based on learning from mistakes. So as they keep on playing more and more games, doing the same step, they learn. But other than that, there are more algorithms being developed. So it's still not at a very mature stage, yeah. But it's more, if you look at the coming decades, where real autonomy. So there is still a lot of work to be done. The skyscraper robot that we saw, that was a toy robot that's been able to build a skyscraper, but you can't really use it today in real construction or industries, right? So it's a lot of work that is being done. And one example that I might give you is that COVID, right? These robots that, for example, Amazon and these places where they are predicting the demand of products. The AI just learns from data. It's not magic. You give it data, it learns from that, it learns patterns. So COVID, for example, the toilet tissue demand went like this, right? And COVID hadn't predicted or seen before this kind of behavior. So that's where we saw the gap, that it wasn't able to predict for how much they should have in their warehouses or how the demand would be matched. So that baffled AI as well. So that's where we are seeing that there's still a lot to be done. And also in terms of healthcare, it's still at a very mature stage, and with time we'll be seeing more and more work in that area. So it still needs a lot of humans in the loop. So the AI experts are very much needed right now. So it's not totally on its own.
Yes, ma'am. The last question. If AI will create machines that can think independently, how can AI be used recursively in the field of education to encourage independent thinking in humans?
Yeah, so AI, in a way, as I said, it's being used independently, as in it's independent, but lacks some skills that humans, as I said, that humans need to come up with critical thinking and creativity, those skills, right? But in education, let's say that if you have your teacher or online assistant that is able to, when you're learning something, learning different topics, it queries you, it's able to understand, let's say, where you lost focus or which area you are weak at, and really creates your personalized experience to education and understand based on your personality, your working hours, and what you need to work on. It's able to create a personalized educational plan. So that's one of the things. Or based on like what you should be learning and help you with really the gaps you need. If you're a visual learner, or are you a learner with more, you learn with text, you learn with audio, video, whatever, right? Being able to understand you and create content that is tailored for you, that's one. But also in education, as I said earlier, we need to keep up with a different set of skills. So it's not that kind of that thinking AI is doing it. We don't need to learn how to do that because we can't compete. We need to collaborate with the skill set that we are good at, right? So those skills, rather than trying to see how we can learn what AI is doing, because you can't compete with the machine in terms of how fast it's at computing, or for example, let's say if the translation, you might be really good, but if there's a Google Translator can translate into hundreds of languages, while as a human, you can't really do that.
Yes, ma'am, that was really good. I would like to hand over the mic to Amatino for the vote of thanks.
Hello everyone. Wow, what an amazing event. It's really great that this international webinar turned out to be very successful. I am Amatin Noor and I'm here to present the vote of thanks to the people who made this event successful. I would like to take a minute and thank all of them. I deem it a great honor to propose the vote of thanks to all who have helped us in making this webinar such a resounding success. First of all, I would like to propose hearty vote of thanks to our speaker, Ms. Samia Khalid, for gracing today's webinar. I personally liked how Ms. Samia Khalid beautifully took us in the world of artificial intelligence. Thank you, ma'am, for your very interesting and thought-provoking address.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be with all of you. I really hope that you did learn something new, something insightful, and it's going to help you going forward. And yeah, looking forward to you guys doing your homeworks.
I'm happy to express vote of thanks to our supporting teams, Brainovision, and also National Youth Council of India, who have made this webinar a grand success. I would like to thank the coordinators of the event for making this webinar a great success. Thank you guys for your efforts. Finally, the wonderful participants have turned up in such a great number, not only from India but also from other countries of the world. Thank you for paying your valuable attention and also asking a good set of questions. Thank you all of you for making this event successful with your contribution. Thank you for blessing with your presence. Now, I would like to announce that from 10 p.m. feedback form link will be open and it will get closed at 6 a.m. by tomorrow. Certificates will be only provided to participants who will fill the feedback form. Link for feedback form is given in the description. Now, I would like to officially end the event once again by thanking all for your cordial cooperation. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, one and all. Thanks a lot.